Minoka, the speaker's here. We want to go grab him and have him come in now before we start the next meeting.
Would he be done?
I know. Because as we wait, I would make an observation that as chair of the board, I have the opportunity to get letters on every time something bad happens at a university, but no one has written me to congratulate me on the good job the Board of Governors has done on college basketball, which was a priority we set out when I became chair. You all recall that it was improving graduation rates and improving our basketball performance, and I've gotten no letters. Presidents get congratulated for this, even though they have nothing to do with it. But
I think we're the only state university system in the country that has basketball actually built into our strategic plan.
That's it. I even brought my old University of Miami along just for fun, just so that they feel like they were part of it. Is he here? Welcome. Next up, we have a special guest today. We invited leadership from the House and Senate to come to meet with us to our meeting today. And at the time, we were not sure whether any of the leadership would be able to make it to the meeting because they're a little busy with the legislative session and committee meetings that are going on. We are delighted that Speaker Will Weatherford is able to spend a few minutes with us. Speaker Weatherford is a great friend to higher education, the state university system, and this board. Some of the members of the board were with us last year when Speaker Weatherford came to talk to us about online education. He challenged our board to consider embracing technology and disruptive innovations as a way to take the state to new heights. The 2012 legislature provided funds for our board to hire a consultant to study online education. Over the past year, this board, and in particular the Strategic Planning Committee, chaired by John Rood, has taken Speaker Weatherford's challenge. We are pleased that the House has picked up on the ideas that came from our efforts. The state of Florida is lucky to have someone as passionate about higher education as Speaker Weatherford is. The board cannot ask for a better friend and supporter, so I'd like us all to welcome Speaker Weatherford to our meeting today. Speaker.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, before you start, and this is really inappropriate, I'd like Lynn Cobb to stand up. Lynn's in the back. She walked in with you. There's in the front. Lynn is the person that knows everything about higher education in this state. Nothing good in higher education has happened without her efforts, but even more importantly, she has stopped a lot of bad things that could have happened to higher education in this state. She is passionate, she's knowledgeable, and she is the best thing we as a state have going in higher education. So Lynn, thank you for all that you do.
Well, Mr. Chairman, you stole the first part of my speech already, man. Listen, I'm so honored to be here, and you literally did. I was going to tell you that we have had such a great relationship with you over the last few years as a board, and I have to give full credit to Lynn Cobb. I mean, whether it's the settlement that we settled several years ago, negotiating that, whether it was working on preeminent legislation, whether it's working on this online concept that we've been talking about, all of it is due to Lynn's visionary work and her tireless efforts in the House. And so thank you for taking the time to honor her. We love her dearly in the House and hope that she stays around for the next 30 years in the Florida House. I would also like to say, Mr. Chairman, how much we appreciate the relationship that we've had with you and your leadership on this board and your steadfastness and our personal relationship working on higher education reform goes back several years, back to my first 2 years in this process 6 years ago, and I really just appreciate your hard work and your dedication to this process and to our state, and of course to your vice chair, who's also become a great friend. And the leadership here at the Board of Governors is very strong. The board is the strongest I think it's ever been, but certainly at the top it's exceptionally strong, and you guys deserve a lot of credit for that, so thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I want to, something kind of caught my attention, just if I can deviate. I don't have a long speech, so I'm going to make this quick, but to deviate what I was actually going to come and talk to you about is really just say thank you. I was reading an article last night that, of all people, Jeb Bush, I'm following Twitter now. Everybody's doing this Twitter thing. So I see what people put out there, and Jeb puts out this Twitter article, and it's an article written by Art Laffer. and it talks about this interesting dynamic that's taking place in America of economically free states versus states that are not as economically free. Unemployment rates, opportunity, what is taxes, how that's driving population trends. The state of Florida today, we think in 2013, is getting very close to our high water mark when it comes to population growth. I don't know if anybody knew that. I remember giving speeches 3 years ago when I said the days of 1,000 people moving to Florida are over. They're not coming back anytime soon. 3 years later, we find ourselves in a position where we're growing again, almost at the level where we were when we were at our high. That brings exceptional opportunity, but also exceptional challenges. And what I believe is, the reason this article I read last night caught my attention is because I do believe in this kind of pocket of freedom concept, but if you don't have an education, if you don't have human capital, it doesn't work. Free markets don't work without smart people. Yeah. And so this concept of Florida embracing this economic freedom and this prosperity agenda, which I think our governor and the Senate and I believe the House is on, coupled with hopefully the most dynamic higher education system that can be created in this country, creates a cocktail that can be unsurpassed by anyone. I really believe that. And I think you believe it too, or you wouldn't be offering your time to serve on this board to help shape the future of this university system. And so I'm extremely bullish on where Florida's going as a state, and I'm very bullish on where you're taking us with our university system. And I believe what you're allowing us to do and what you have offered up as an idea and the legislature is embracing with online learning is going to change the game. We've had many conversations with President Manchin, and imagine, I view this as almost a pilot project, but imagine having a preeminent university in the state of Florida that a student can go to and take all their classes online in a very highly technical, tremendous platform, great content format, and then get a degree for a fraction of the cost, a fraction of what we're charging today. If you're a bright future student, you're probably going for free with no cost of living. It's an amazing opportunity for us to leverage technology to do things that we've never done before. And I just, when I came to you a year ago and I suggested kind of giving us some latitude to test this out in the marketplace, I never knew where it would end. But I always knew that if it was my idea and it wasn't our idea, it wouldn't work. And the fact that you guys are embracing technology and the leveraging of technology and what we're doing with Florida and UWF and all the universities, what they're doing on their own, I believe 20 years from now, we're going to see a university system that is more vibrant, that is bringing education to more people, that doesn't matter who you are, how much money you make, what household you come from, what color you are, you're going to have access to the highest education money can buy. That's where we are. And that's amazing, and it's going to change the way that we live. And so I get really passionate about this stuff, and there's a lot of things we're fighting about in Tallahassee and arguing over, and a lot of policy issues and industry food fights, and we're going to deal with all that stuff. But we can't take our eye off the ball, and I feel like sometimes in politics, we tend to focus on the journey and not on the destination. I just want you to know, we are focused on the destination, particularly when it comes to education and where we're going, and not just how we're going to get there. And I appreciate your partnership in this, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the board's partnership in this. Every university in our state plays a very vibrant role in the future of our economic vitality. And my tenure here is short. I mean, let's just be honest. In 14 months, nobody's going to be asking me to come speak to the Board of Governors. So, I'm going to take this little moment, this thimble of influence that I have, that I've been offered by some great legislators in the Florida House, and we're going to use it to try to focus on the mission and where we're going. So I think you'll see, and hopefully you have seen, very positive budget numbers out of the House. We fully funded the $300 million the same way we took it from you. Sorry about that, but we're giving it back. We put another $65 million in there, and we believe that we are giving our university system the resources that they need. Mr. Chancellor, the resources that you need and our universities need to have a vibrant system. Thank you too, sir, for what you're doing. And so if we mess up on something this session, it's not because we did it on purpose. We want to work with you, and if we can do anything better than what we're doing right now, we hope you'll let us know. So thank you for having me today. Thank you for your efforts, and let's go get them. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I also want to thank you for your leadership. You have done unbelievable in higher education, and of course link up something really interesting. I don't know why everybody's afraid of Lynn Cobb, and you know, and usually people say, wait until Lynn Cobb gets hold of this. With that, and I'm going to turn maybe to Chairman of our Finance, and if you recall yesterday, I mentioned to you what a bad guy he is. He is, and he will tell you about performance funding. It's so important to us, you know, on performance funding. And Mr. Chairman, why don't you?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. How are you this morning?
Great.
Really an honor that you're here in front of us. Before you came in, we had a Budget and Finance Committee meeting, and back to a year ago in June, we had a somewhat contentious, difficult meeting about tuition and about funding. And I think that from then to now, the spirit of working together between the universities and the Finance Committee and the Board of Governors staff has moved at a speed that nobody could have imagined, into an incredibly cooperative spirit. And one of the things we've been working on is working together is developing the criteria for performance-based funding. And whether you pick an article in any other part of the country, in higher education, performance-based metrics and funding is clearly the direction that things are moving. We also have developed 10 metrics that the universities and our staff and our committee feel are appropriate. My concern is that we will get through this whole process and actually lose the opportunity to begin the process of having some of the funding that the universities receive come through this committee and through the Board of Governors and be based on actual performance. And I think there's just the risk that we're going to lose that opportunity, and I would appreciate it if you would comment on your thoughts about that.
Yeah, and you're timely. Absolutely. Me and your vice chair had this very conversation yesterday, and our thought was the $300 million that was taken for you for one-time money last year. I was not a big fan of it. I thought it was a bad decision that we made. It was part of our overall budget, so I could have voted against the whole budget, I guess, but at the end of the day, the money was taken. Our thought was, if we took, Judy, how much money did we take from you at University of South Florida? Do you remember? $50 million. If you took $50 million from USF, my thought was we should give the $50 million back, not 40, not 35, not 45. And so, of the $300 million restore, we felt it was very important in the House to restore it in the way that it was taken. But as I stated earlier, there's another $65 million that we have in our budget that is going to go to the E&G, and theoretically, our hope and our thought is that those resources are available to this Board of Governors so that you can use those performance measures to reward the universities that are doing the things that we all think they should be doing. And so we are very supportive of that concept. I think you'll find a very friendly House to that concept. And just look at if I could back up for a second, if you look at where we've come from, I mean, literally 4 years ago, we were suing each other, okay, over who was in charge of tuition and who was in charge of our university system. And now the conversation has shifted from who's legally responsible for what, and where we couldn't even sit in the same room and have a conversation, to, hey, we've created some criteria for performance pay. We would like for the legislature to write us a check so that we can use these, put these criteria to work and start to shape our university system to focus on the right metrics. That's exactly where we should be. Yeah. So I mean, the fact that we're talking about this, and I think you're going to find a receptive House to it, is a great place. And I don't know what of course this is our budget, we have to work things through in conference, but I believe Senator Gates is just as focused on performance pay as we are, and I think he's very interested, and I believe, from what I understand, he is sympathetic and very happy with the criteria you have come up with. And so my guess is when we get out of session, you are going to have some money that you can use with that criteria to fund the university system. And I think it's a good first step, and hopefully there'll be more along the way.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your support on that. I hope, I'm glad to hear that our vice chair was in your hallway in your office yesterday, and I hope
he just camped out and said he wouldn't leave unless I met with him. So
I hope he was properly representing my cooperative spirit and view, and but I'm glad he was representing me.
Mr. Speaker, can you take a couple more questions?
yeah, sure, I'm here.
Governor Whitley.
Yes, Speaker. Again, I would just like to thank you for coming before us today. I don't mean to put you on the spot here. So I just want to.
But you're going to, right?
A student.
I just wanted to ask if you could briefly comment on the 6% increase in the base tuition that is put into the House budget. The recommendation so far, which is not in the governor's or the Senate, and sort of what are your thoughts on that, where that's going to go throughout the process, and sort of the rationale for that?
Yeah, look, tuition can be a very divisive issue. We certainly don't want it to be this year. I think everybody is in agreement that after the last 4 or 5 years of the tuition increases we've had to do, that coming in with a double-digit increase is not viable, it's not right, and frankly, I think the sticker shock on it probably scares a lot of people. But I also believe that, Governor, what we can't do is ignore the fact that we're still ranked 48th out of 50 states when it comes to tuition. And let me put in perspective something for you that no one's talking about, but should be talked about in this debate. The average student in Florida, what they actually pay out of pocket at our major universities, I believe all universities, is about the same amount of money as they spend on this every year. Okay? Now, we talk about how we value education in our system and how we value education as a society, but our students and our parents are spending as much money on a cell phone every year as they do as paying for tuition for their child or for themselves to go to a university in Florida. That system long-term can't work. And so while I'm sympathetic to the tuition, we cannot ignore the fact that we're ranked 48th out of 50 states. And so our position has been a position of 6%, which frankly the CPI of higher education is about 4%, I think, 3 to 4%, so it's a little bit above that. We're more than willing to negotiate with our friends in the Senate and the governor, but we think to just take tuition off the table and ignore the fact that we're ranked so low and ignore the fact that our students are spending more on cell phones to some extent than they are on tuition is not right. And there's got people, I believe in this country that people value what they pay for. And if you are a student that doesn't have the financial need or the financial means to pay for your education, we as a society will find a way to get you there. If you can get into the University of South Florida or West Florida, we have a responsibility to find a way to pay for that student. But there are students that can't afford it, and they're spending their money on other things like really nice smartphones as opposed to helping fund for a world-class education. And in order for us to have real quality, which we all want, it's not free. And so we're trying to find that balance, and if 6% isn't the right balance, we're open to negotiation and discussion, but that's the true answer, sir. And, we hope that some people will pay attention to it.
Elizabeth, you had a question, then I'm going to let you go. Okay, anybody?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. As you well know, Mr. Speaker, we've got a facilities crisis, and I know there's legislation going through the House relating to the facilities. President Bentz, his task force is actively involved, and just was wondering where you see that legislation going.
We've been in constant contact with who I call Aunt Judy. So y'all call her President Bentz, I call her Aunt Judy. We've been in constant contact with Aunt Judy and having a lot of conversations. I think you would see that we have embraced a lot of the recommendations that have come out of the task force, but we haven't just embraced giving you more flexibility at the university level with your resources. What we've also embraced is the idea of funding PICO. And so you will see a tremendous amount of money that's going into PICO, not just for new projects, but frankly, we're spending a lot of resources on maintenance and upkeep. We know, walking through our universities, that we've got some old buildings that have to be maintained. And buildings are like people. If you don't maintain them, they get sicker and sicker, and eventually it's going to cost more. So you're seeing hundreds of millions of dollars, and I don't have the exact figure with me, but I think it's a significant number that is going towards PICO funds, both for maintenance and for new projects, and we are focusing on that. We know there's been some pent-up demand on that front, and we're trying to address it. But so it's a two-pronged approach. It's the language that gives you flexibility at the local level and the university level, but it also us making it direct investment. By the way, we say PICO, but these aren't PICO funds. I want you to know this is general revenue, because there is no PICO funds, as you all know. So we're taking general revenue funds that could go somewhere else, and we are making a choice to spend that money to help make sure that we have the facilities we need for our students to get that world-class education.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Speaker, you truly honor us by coming here today, and we really are very, very appreciative of everything you're doing for higher education, not only this year, but for the past 5 or 6 years. You really are, you're special. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all. Have a great day. Thank you.